Okay, today we're going to talk about using percents, and you want to know when you're going to use these. These are especially important ones to know. First, we're going to talk about calculate a tip. We are going to use 15%, although it's becoming more customary to tip 20%, I think, but we're going to just use 15%. And I want you all to use the same rule, so we'll do it the same. So step one, I want you to round the bill to the nearest dollar. That'll make it easy to do. We'll be doing a lot of this in our heads. We will not use a calculator when we're doing tip. Step two, I want you to find 10% by moving the decimal point one place to the left. So in other words, if it's $25, if you move the one decimal one to the left, that's going to be $2.50. So that's how you take 10%. It's like dividing by 10. Well, what is 5% in relation to 10? It's half, so you're going to take half of this answer. So what's half of $2.50? In this case, it'd be $1.25. And then you're going to add these two together in step 4, and you get $3.75. So those are the steps you're going to do. Round to the nearest dollar, take 10%, take half of that, add those two together to get the tip. And I want everybody to do it this way so we'll all get the same answer. Alright, so in number 1, in class we just kind of came up with a number, so I won't be using the same number probably that we did in class, but this will show you how to do it. Let's say our bill is $43.85. Well, step 1 was to round to the nearest dollar, so there's the dollars, it rounds to $44. Step 2, you take 10%, so you move it over 1, would be 4.4, I like to add the 0, 40. Half of that is $2.20. Now these are steps I want to see, and we're not using a calculator on this, remember. And there's your final answer, so $6.60 would be the tip. Number 2, let's say our bill is $75.21. So we round to the nearest dollar, that's 75. And you take 10% of that, that's $7.50. Now this is probably the hardest step. What's half of 7? Well, that's $3.50. Half of 50 is 25, that's $3.75. So I do want you to do a little math in your head when we're doing these. So remember, no calculator. Carry my 1, I get $11.25 would be my tip. Now we're going to talk about sales tax. To find sales tax, we're going to use really the rate times base equal part, because we'll know our rate, which is the percent, and we'll know our base, which is the price. So we're really using that formula instead of setting up a proportion. And then it's kind of important to read what it asks. It says if it asks for the total price, you got to add the sales tax and the price together. Now this problem only asks for the tax, but you need to read your homework and see which it's asking for. And we'll use Indiana's sales tax rate for this problem, and the Indiana sales tax rate is 7%. Other states have different rates. So for this problem, we're going to buy some pants, let's say, that cost $33.54. Again, we probably did a different problem in class. So I'm going to take that. We don't round that off because we pay tax on all of it. I'm going to write my 7% as a decimal, 0.07. Here's where you will use your calculator and multiply those two. You're going to get 2.3478. We're dealing with money, so we'll be rounding to the nearest hundredth. 7 says make it bigger, $2.35. So that would be my tax. Now if the question was how much did I pay, we would have to take that and add it to the $33.54. So please make sure you read the directions to see which they ask you to do. Now we're going to buy some things on sale. That's especially happening now at Christmas time. Lots of sales going on. So to find a discount, you're going to write your percent as a decimal and multiply by the original price. Again, that's the rate times base. Now if they say how much money did you save, you would be done. But if they say find the new price, you're going to subtract this from the original price. So let's say we're going to buy a computer that's priced at $565.73. But we're getting it on sale, 30% off. So we're going to take 565.73. 30% as a decimal is just 0.3. When I multiply those, I get 169. I'm going to go ahead and round it off, 0.72. So that's how much money I'm saving, but if I want to see how much I'm going to have to pay, I'm going to need to subtract these two. And if I do that, I get $396.01. So that would be my actual cost. Now, some of you might want a shortcut way. There is, if we pay 30%, or if we get 30% off, what percent are we paying? We know 100% is everything, so if we're getting 30% off, we're paying 70%. So if you write that as a decimal, 0.7, and multiply by this answer, you will go directly to this. If they don't ask you how much did you save, you could use that kind of shortcut method and go right to that. Then the third type of problem is interest problem. And there's a formula for interest. Interest is equal to principal times rate times time. Principal is the amount of money you're either borrowing or investing. Rate is your percent as a decimal, and time is the length of time you're keeping it. And you do want to make sure the rate and the time are in the same, usually considered years if it doesn't mention anything else. So find the interest if you borrow $4,000. That's our principal. Times the rate, 5% as a decimal, would be 0.05. Times the time times 3. So just write that down, pick up your calculator and do that. You're going to get $600. So when you pay the money back, you end up paying them $4,000 plus this extra $600 for letting them use your money. If we're going to invest $9,000 at 3% as a decimal, that would be 0.03. Now we have 9 months. Well, what part of a year is 9 months? You think there are 12 months in a year. That reduces to 3/4, so I hope you know that as a decimal is 0.75. Multiply that together, you're going to get $202.50. So you would have earned that money just for putting it in the bank for 9 months if you were getting that interest rate.